My name is Sophie K. Until I was 7 years old, my life was filled with the sights and sounds of the city where I grew up, New York. Then one morning, 10 years ago, without warning, I woke up to find that I could no longer hear many of life's everyday sounds. I'm here today to tell you how my life was forever changed by losing my hearing and why it's so important for you to protect yours. To this day, not even my doctors know how this happened to me. All we know is that overnight, I lost basically all of my hearing in my left ear and partial hearing in my right ear. The majority of hair cells in my left ear died. My hearing in my left ear now begins at around 95 decibels, while my right ear begins at around 35 decibels. Most people are able to hear noises that are as soft as 0 decibels, sometimes even negative 15 decibels, so I've really lost the vast majority of my hearing. All the time, people are asking me, what does the world sound like to you? But I think that the more realistic question is what the world doesn't sound like to me. It's very different. And I've learned that many sounds are continually ignored or taken for granted by people who possess all of their hearing. You really don't realize all of life's sounds until they're no longer discernible or until they disappear altogether. And that's really taught me to listen, to adjust, to read lips, and to be more observant, and just to be more aware of everything around me. The months following my sudden loss of hearing turned out to be filled with dozens of repetitive and predictable doctor's visits, normally involving blood tests, hearing tests, CT scans, MRIs, and even sometimes participation in genetic studies. It was very, very tiring. It was difficult to understand how my life could change so drastically, so suddenly. A part of me had been lost. My self-confidence was completely shaken. I was now viewed as being different. I was teased, I was mocked. I could no longer hear my friend whispering to me. People who didn't know me personally sometimes even perceived me to be ungracious and obnoxious because they thought I was just ignoring them, when in reality, I just couldn't hear them. All of my teachers had to wear special microphones that transmitted their voices to a small hearing device that was placed on my desk. But in addition to these changes in school, I was greatly affected outside of school as well. It became difficult to watch TV or movies at home with my family and friends. What was too loud for them was just much too soft for me. It also impacted other aspects of my life. For example, I could no longer hear noises coming from behind me, so little things like riding a bike or even crossing the street by myself became dangerous activities for me. And also, I now have to deal with ringing in my ears periodically. I sometimes get sharp pains. There's nothing I can do about these little things that are really having very big impacts. There are a lot of loud noises in this world, and that's why people my age should take steps to protect their hearing. Most people don't know how much their hearing matters until it begins to disappear. I'm a prime example of this. Taking precautionary steps by prioritizing the protection of your hearing is very simple and highly effective. The younger you are when you take this initiative, the less likely you are to develop permanent damage in the future. Not all hearing loss occurs randomly as mine did. Much hearing loss is gradual and thus goes unnoticed or ignored. As kids and teenagers continue to expose themselves to a variety of loud noises every single day, they are slowly, or in some cases quickly, damaging the hair cells in their ears. For example, listening to your iPod or going to concerts or even going to sporting events. All of those things involve exposure to loud noises, which damages your hair cells. And without functioning hair cells, people cannot hear. Imagine not hearing your friend speak to you as they stand just a mere 10 feet away from you. Imagine not being able to read their lips, not being able to understand them without reading their lips in order to understand what they are trying to say. Imagine not hearing a fire truck that is racing down the street and heading right towards you. Imagine life without birds chirping. Just try and imagine life without sound. It's very, very difficult. But thankfully, you have the power to prevent that, and you have the power to prevent permanent noise-induced hearing loss. Since I do have some hearing left, I do everything I possibly can to protect it. I've developed an organization called Sophie SoundCheck to help raise awareness of the dangers that contribute to noise-induced hearing loss. If people are more aware of the ways that they can protect their hearing, then their hearing and thus their lives will be greatly impacted. For example, I'll tell you, which is the same thing I tell my friends, when you listen to music, turn the volume to a low setting. When you attend concerts and sporting events, wear earplugs. And also get periodic hearing tests to monitor your level of hearing. I want to raise awareness that hearing loss is a very, very harsh reality. We need to raise funds to further research for noise-induced hearing loss. We also need to take small steps in our own lives to preserve our hearing before we lose it. It happened to me, and I don't want it to happen to you. I was unlucky and lost much of my hearing at only 7 years old. You, however, you have the knowledge, the time, and the power to prevent the same thing from happening to you.